Hello, my name is Emily Crow from Crochet Creations and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to be doing a sort of yarn reorganization, maybe declutter video. I am doing this because I've noticed that my current organization system is kind of falling apart. It's not by any means crazy chaotic, but it's definitely more chaotic than is useful for me. I have a small business, Crochet Creations, where I make and design crochet and knit pieces. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that you enjoy this type of video, and if you do, definitely let me know in the comments down below. I need to organize my bookshelf of crafty books. If you are watching this video, then my bookshelf tour is already up on my YouTube channel, so I'll make sure to link that up above as well as in the description down below. But I really need to organize things a little bit before I film that video, so I'm organizing a little. We'll take care of that video, and then I'll come back to organizing my yarn and yarny things. So kind of telling you a little bit about what's going on here. I've got a cube shelf, I've got a couple boxes of things, I've got a couple boxes in another closet, so things are just kind of spread out, things are getting messy, and I'll definitely show you a little bit about what that looks like. It's not crazy bad or anything, but definitely things need to be taken care of, and I'm in the mood. Spring cleaning, it's time to get a refresh on this space so that I can have more creative energy spent on designing and making things that bring me joy. So thank you so much for coming along, and I hope you enjoy this. Okay, so first and foremost, this is our focus for today. This is definitely going to be a multi-day project as I only have so much time around naps and such, and not going to try to overdo it, but going to be very intentional about how I'm going to reorganize this space so it works well for me. I've got my bookshelf right here of all sorts of crafting books, mostly crochet, but I've got knitting as well. Some other supplies. I've got some in my cube shelf. It's a 3x3. I've got some yarn in the bin, some yarn here, extra books I need to move, other supplies for making stuff, as I do custom orders, and I have a market booth right now, so I have some supplies more office-y type up there, but I definitely need to reorganize as my priorities are shifting. And you can see I also have an overflow of whips going on right here, so I definitely want to take care of this. I have up above as well, I've got a little shelf that's pretty well organized. I'll definitely take a look and make sure, but I've got some bigger items that don't really fit well down there, and I've got a couple bulletin board type things. So grab a drink, or maybe grab your own yarn stash so you can sort through as well, and let's get started on cleaning this up. Okay, so first there's a couple really easy categories we're going to take care of. I'm going to try to move all of my whips out of the way, set aside the things that I'm actually working on that are active, as well as the things that are just, ideas or things I put off to the side. And I have a few whips down in these bottom bins too, so I might as well take those out, and most of them are all things that I'm not working on right now, so those will be in the less active whip pile. Also, definitely going to take care of these books, take those out, and I'll make sure to start reorganizing the top of my shelving. Really, the best thing you can do for decluttering or reorganizing is just take everything out and just put back things in intentionally that you want to do. If you only take out one or two things and try to piece your way out of taking things from a certain spot, then it's still going to look pretty cluttered and it's not necessarily going to work for you. So definitely clear off as much as you can and then put things back that you really need to be there, and that helps you prioritize what is most meaningful to put back in that space. Okay, so we've made a little bit of progress. I have this whole bin cleared out, and previously this is kind of where I put the things that were either designs that I hadn't quite started, maybe done a swatch or got the yarn for, or custom orders. That's where the yarn and the projects would go. Things that I was making for my market, things like that would go in this bin. I don't think it was quite working for me like that, at least how it was organized. So I cleared that out, put the whips in the correct piles, put all the yarn and things for designs in one pile, and then I have all my other more active whips. I also found a lot of stuff, and I'll show you here, that does not need to be here. And this is a big problem that precipitated me wanting to do this organization. So I've got a bunch of skeins that don't need to be here. So like projects, I've already finished the custom order where I use this yarn. I don't need it over here anymore. Some yarn pulled from my stash to maybe make an order for, but the recipient decided they didn't want that. Some other random like tools, like this cording and stuff. Couple things to sell at my market, like dishcloths, stuff that does not need to be here. So that is another tip for if you are cleaning, organizing, decluttering your stash in any way, is to pick big categories so you can easily sort things, and then definitely take out everything that doesn't need to be there, put that in another spot. You don't need to take your skeins one at a time to the other place where you put them. Keep them out of the way, and so that when you're ready to come to them, you can do all the similar skeins that need to move to the same spot in one go. So you're not making lots of different trips. It's very methodical to take care of items one at a time, but it's a lot faster and a lot simpler mentally to just take care of all the things at the same time. You know, if you have a bunch of random labels that I don't need anymore, or a bunch of like these little tangly bits or random scraps that I don't need, I'll throw these away. But if I get up and go to the garbage every single time I find something like this, then I'll be up, 20, 30 times in an hour. That's just a lot of wasted energy. Here I've got a bunch of whips that are more active. I do have a lot of whips, but I will say that 3 of these projects are all custom orders that I need to work on. I've got a pattern test right there. I've got, that yarn doesn't need to be there. Or that's for a design that I'm working on. I've got a couple different bags for the same design. I've got another whip right there, another whip right there. So I've only got like 2 or 3 active whips. I've got a design. I've got a couple orders. So it's not as crazy as it looks, but definitely I need to go through and organize. Over here, I've got some yarn for designs that I haven't used yet. I've got all my inactive whips, or things that I probably need to decide if I want to frog, or things that will take my attention in a while. So those do not need to be anywhere accessible necessarily. Maybe like the next thing I want to work on should be, but not everything, because they've just been sitting in that bin untouched for a long time. And I've got all my pile of books. Most of these are things that have come into my life in the past couple months that I just haven't gotten around to putting on my shelf yet, because the top of my bookshelf is definitely a mess. So everything has a purpose, right? But also some things don't need to be here, even if they do have a purpose. I've got all sorts of things. I'll give you a little insight. So there's a bunch of books and stuff. I've got some wool wash, a little crow statue for crochet creations. I've got some hand lotion, which I use often before I work with yarn, and that's great. It's definitely yarn adjacent for me, but also I don't have a nightstand really. This is not necessarily the best spot for it logically, but also it's the most convenient for me. So I need to figure out if there's another place I can put that. Kind of declutters this space a little bit more, so it is a more creative place. I've got some crochet hooks, not all of them. I got like one of every size pretty much. An old Christmas whip. Ooh, I gotta move that out of the way. I've got some other tools and stuff in this little carrying case. Some old swatches, so I can probably just throw those away. A couple like other random things, sets. I've got some other items that I need to either take care of, or they're like long-standing whips or things I need to fix. Just some things to take care of and to tidy up a little bit more here. This jar I just bought from Target, and I'm going to use it to put in my beautiful hand-dyed sock yarn scraps, because that's kind of where my making journey has led to. And so I save all my larger ball scraps, but I definitely want to display my sock yarn scraps because I think they're beautiful. Pulling a little scrap for like a bit of color work on a sock, something that I've been doing, and so it's really handy to have all of them out and separate from all the other scrap balls that I have. So I definitely want to put them out there and make room for that. Most of this stuff just needs to get out of the way, and then I'll figure out what to put back in this space. All right, here we are left with just the books that I already had up there, and there's a little bit of organization to them. I'll definitely talk about it more in my book tour, so check it out there. But what I'm gonna do is move the pile of books I had inside the cube shelf on top, so they're all together and everything is combined. So let's do that and kind of organize things how I want to in the order I need. Ta-da! Everything's there. It might not look that different, but I had a pile maybe like that big of different publications and stuff, so they're all moved into their spots. Again, if you want to know more about all the things I have on my creative bookshelf, then definitely check out that video. But we're going to move on now that that is kind of organized. And it's not like the most pretty, but it's functional for me as how I categorized it. So now I'm going to move over to this space over here. I've got maybe half of the top of this bookshelf left for other things, different supplies and stuff. And I would love a lot of things more out of the way. I'm definitely not a minimalist, hence all the books, but I don't want to embrace a total maximalist style because I want to be intentional about everything that I have. I would love to have this space be mostly open, not stuffed to the brim, but just the things that are really helpful to have right there on top. Let's see how I want to kind of style that. We're going to work on styling the top of this 3x3 cube organizer. I think the one thing I want to make sure I do first, I want to use the jar to hold my sock scraps. And so I'm going to fill that up, make it look really cute. I have some scrap yarns. I definitely need to take care of this too. Inside one of these bins, I've got all sorts of scraps that need organizing for sure. But in the meantime, I'm going to be filling up this jar. Uh-oh, that's not gonna work. Okay, so that was a bust. I was able to fit maybe like 7 little scraps in here, and I could probably shove a little more in here, but that's all. I knew it was gonna be small, but I didn't realize it'd be that small. I think I will still separate out all my sock yarn scraps to kind of see how much space that takes, and then we'll have to get a new container, I think, if I want to do what I'm thinking of doing. And at least I can take care of all of these scraps and get them out of the way, because I don't need them in my drawer necessarily unless I'm looking for scraps, and then I'll just go into my scrap yarn box and pick out those. So I will start separating that out, I guess. It is so fun to go through my scraps and look at all the different socks and sock yarn projects I've made in the past, which is like super fun. This is the biggest scrap that I had in there. I don't know, maybe this is 20 grams. All the other larger leftovers from a project I still have included in my stash. So it's just when it gets to a certain size that I decide, you know what, I'm not going to count on my stash. I'm going to put it in my scrap area. So yeah, I've got, these are from my crocheted socks. This is from Explore Knits. I did the Arate socks by S Knits. These are from my first cuff down socks, my Texas socks that I made when I was moving from Texas to California. My Woolberry Fiber Musselburgh hat I just finished. My first pair of socks ever. This I made a wrapped up in you shawl for a test for Knits and Knots Winnipeg, and this is how much yarn I had left after my tiny tree sock. So yeah, all sorts of different scraps. Definitely not going to fit in that jar, but you know what, I'm going to just put these in a bag so that they're at least easy to access and categorized, because I had not really worked with fingering weight yarn before I started knitting and working with hand-dyed yarn. So it's been fun to delve into that realm of the fiber arts world. Ta-da! My completed top of my shelf. Like I said, I'm not a minimalist, though I do try to be more and more intentional and minimal in what I've got. And so there's a little bit going on, but I just don't have a lot of space to put things, and so this is what it's going to be. I do like having a basket there to put a couple items that are more attention focused, and hopefully since I cleared that out, I will get off my butt and fix those couple of items. I've got my cute little scrap jar there. There's definitely more room so I can get a bigger jar next time I'm at a store. Got my yarn bowl. I'm not sure what I want to put in it or how I want to use it right now, but my husband 3D printed that for me, and so I definitely want to have that out and ready to use. I made this little mug jar thingy, the pink one, in a ceramics class, and so I love having that out and putting just some of my crochet hooks out there, the ones that are most easy to grab. I put a couple of my sets right there. It's nice having that handy, and it is kind of a small packet, so I like having that there. I got my cute little statue, my wool wash handy, because I do not want that to spill if it's in a bin down here. That is my area right now. Not looking amazing, but I think it'll function for me for what I need. All right, so as you can see, this is the majority of my hand-dyed yarn. I do have some things that I've already skeined up. Some of those are down here, so they're not necessarily set out, though I do think it would be good for me to set them out so that I think about those skeins more. I had wound them up when I was moving from Texas to California, and I was only bringing a little bit of stuff. If you want to see my decluttering video where I chose what small amount of things I was going to bring from Texas to California with us when we were downsizing temporarily for a company move, then definitely check out the link. I will make sure to link that down below as well. I show you in that video, I wound up all the yarn that I was planning on taking with me so it'd be ready to go. I used a little bit of it. I haven't gotten to it, and it being out of sight, out of mind, it's been hard to want to work on those yarns, even though I definitely want to. So I think it'll be helpful for me to pull those out again. I had hid them away, bagged them up because my toddler, Georgia, was getting into my yarns, but now she's been a little bit more respectful of my items and not as interested in pulling everything off the shelf. So I think I should be okay in putting that back up here so I can see what I've got. And so I'm gonna kind of rearrange. I also have some sweater quantities of yarn that are not necessarily from hand-dyed yarn companies. So I have like some Knit Picks yarn and such that I think it'd be helpful to put up here because those are projects that I want to work on soon, like for my Make 9 list. I'll link that up here if you're interested, so check that out. But I'm gonna kind of readjust. I think I'll put all the sweater and garment type sweater quantities inside one bin to keep all those together, and then all the sock yarns in another, maybe all the caked yarns in another. I'll kind of play around, but these are the yarns that I'll see most often, and so I definitely want it to be an inspiring space for me. Okay, let's start with what I know. I want to do an area of larger quantities of yarn. Got some Sorella, that's for a summer blouse. Got some teeny button for the oat sweater. More teeny button for a cottage core crop. I've got some mohair that I'll use for a no frills sweater, and so definitely gonna put that in the sweater / garment area, and I'll gather the rest of it because I have some Knit Picks yarn that I'm gonna hold double with that mohair from Madeline Tosh to make my no frills. So I'll make sure to put that in here, but I'm just gonna make sure I have all my hanked yarn in there. My swatch will go somewhere different. It doesn't need to be exactly with the yarn, but it needs to be accessible. So I've seen people kind of pin it to their bulletin board, so I might do that just so this is handy so I can get it. So as soon as I start the no frills sweater, then I can just grab this and put this in the project bag I choose for it. Oh my gosh. I have the needles ready and everything with it. I really need to start this. I should probably start this project first before other big ones. But I've got kind of a lot on my plate right now, so I'm gonna hold off, but I'll stick that into my yarn so that I can keep track of those, because I'm not gonna start another project with size 4 needles before this one. This is gonna be the one because I'm committing to it. All right, I'm gonna go get my other yarn that's across the room that I didn't have a place for and give it a place. Yes, I have a whole box. Check out my latest podcast video. Well, it's episode 10, so by the time this video comes out, there might be other podcast episodes. But episode 10 is where I talk about this yarn haul, so definitely check it out. I do feel like I'm running out of space. I've got 13 of these, and they definitely squish. I like that it's all contained in a bag, so I'm not sure if I'm going to move that. Maybe I'll put it in the next spot over because I do have a couple other skeins to put in here. So we'll see. I don't know. It won't be a perfect system, but hopefully it'll work for me. Just picked these up from my local yarn store. They're going to be a sea glass tee for my baby girl out of these two. And then I'm going to use these two as well as my scraps from this to make a sea glass tee for me. So we're going to match. This yarn I actually bought to make a design with, so I'm gonna put this with that whip since I already started the design, but I needed more yarn. This bin is empty. I already emptied it. Oh freak. Oh freak. And then I've got this full of some larger scrap leftovers, wound up skeins, so we're gonna kind of organize this and put the wound up skeins in here too, and maybe even the leftovers maybe in the front. I'm not quite sure kind of what will fit. Maybe I'll put the leftovers out of the way because I'll know to look for them when I need them. I have to scrunch it down for this, but I pretty much finished I think how I want these to be. Definitely pretty full, but that means that the yarns I want to work with the most are easiest to access and can give me some inspiration. I'm waiting to work on this combo project until I get another big project out of the way. So I have this pretty much kind of where I want it. I've got all my already caked up yarn, some other big projects, sweater quantities, or garment quantities I guess I should say, as well as single skeins of sock yarn. And looking through the bins in the bottom, that's where I pulled a lot of this yarn that you haven't seen before. I have a little bit more of sock yarn. I've got hand-dyed sock yarn scraps. I've got some non-hand-dyed yarn, fingering weight yarns that are in here that could be used for socks or other things. There's a lot of space in this bin. I'm not quite sure what else I'll put in this right now, but then this bin is full of all sorts of yarns for my Stash Make 9, and so definitely check out that link up above to see what projects I'm hoping to make for my Stash Make 9. So those projects are all in there and ready to go, and I know where they are. I have one last bin that I don't necessarily have a plan for right now, but I think I'm gonna put in maybe yarn for custom orders and things that I need to work on so that it's tucked out of the way, but when I'm ready to just sit down and bang it out, I can do that. So I might do that. And there's a tendency to want to fill the bins, but tip, don't fill the bins if you don't have to. Honestly, these are pretty full. Hopefully I can work through this stash since I don't have a lot of things coming, but I'm hoping that at least for a little bit, I'll have things in front of my face, so I'll be more able to work on those things that have been sitting in my stash a little longer that I really want to use, that are still beautiful and inspiring yarns. So yeah, maybe order yarn will go in here, and then we'll see where I want to put my whips. I'm not quite sure. Okay, so we've had a little bit of a hiatus, a delicious hiatus, and now looking at kind of what's left here, it's kind of a big mess, but that always happens whenever you're cleaning, decluttering, organizing. It always gets worse before it gets better. All right, so we've got all sorts of whips, all the old whips, some things I want to work on soon, some scraps are there, a couple carrying things, more current whips, some supplies. I pulled this box from the craft closet that I have, and this is where I've had my scraps so far. Now, I think what I'm going to do is ditch the small blue boxes inside the big box because they don't close very well. I've had this for a really long time. It's been through a lot, so I'm okay parting with those cases. I do have a bunch of Ziploc bags left over from my previous organization attempts that I can reuse, so I'm not throwing those away. So I think I'll use those, label them with the size, weight of yarn, and then reorganize this, and then all of these scraps that I've got over here in a big messy pile, I'm gonna put those inside here, categorized by weight, and so that should clean up a bit of this. And then I gotta figure out what to do with my whips. Hello, it has been a hot minute. It's been a few days since I last filmed the organization I did in my cube organizer over here. I'm kind of getting that most of the way set up. Right now, I have a little bit more time during my daughter's nap, and so I think I'm going to be tackling this part, the very top row of my cube organizer. That's more where I have my office supplies, different materials for making things for my market. So I'm definitely gonna clear that out and try to make more space. I'm not quite sure what I want to use the space for, but I think I can use it better and maybe have another bin open up for more yarn. Maybe? I'm not quite sure. We're gonna kind of figure out what I'm gonna do, but I need to empty it all out so I can see what I've got, see what doesn't need to be here, and get it organized. Okay, so first bin is empty, and it's honestly the easiest one to get through, but there's still a lot of stuff. I'll show you kind of what I've got. I've got a couple like actual supplies, some crochet hooks, a pom-pom maker. I need to find out somewhere to put all my supplies. Maybe that's gonna be one of these bins. I've got a couple things, cardstock type things for packaging. I've got a couple like other little findings. These are all supplies for making things. So I've got pacifier clips and little wristlet things, clips, hair bows. I've got all sorts of supplies for making amigurumi, all sorts of different eyeball options. So these are all kind of in the same vein. These can all stay together. I've got all the paper products related to my market and selling finished items. So I think these all kind of go together too. So I've got a couple piles. I think I'll go through a couple more of my bins and see if anything else can kind of fit in these piles. I should probably organize it a little bit more like delineate the piles, but I'm going to see if anything else would go in any of these piles and then kind of figure out where I want the things to go, especially because these don't necessarily need to be easily accessible right now, but they should all be bundled together so that when I do sell things, I have them. Maybe I should put them in with my box of market stuff. That's an idea. Oh my goodness, this is out of control. There's just so many things. And like I said, one of the bins was full of a lot of different crafting materials and more office type supplies. So that's a huge mess. I need to figure out a better way to organize that. And I definitely don't need as much stuff. I've got some packing type materials. If I'm mailing something for my Etsy shop, I probably should just box it all up together so it's easy to find and put it away in a closet because I don't need to access it on a daily basis. I was able to find some things to relocate that definitely don't need to go in crafting things and a couple things to throw away. I've got all my minis that I got for my recent Scrappy Advent I did in December that I wish I hadn't done because it's all different weights, all different fibers, so it's really hard to use up those scraps. So I've been kind of whittling away at them. I've got all my fingering weight scraps, and I've got all my yarn labels. Really, it started because I wanted to just save them all, see how much yarn I used. And then I've been throwing them away and just collecting my recent yarn labels so that I can remember to post on Instagram or like talk about it on YouTube what yarns I'm using up and the colorways. I've just started collecting them and it's just, I haven't cleaned them out in a long time. So I probably just need to throw away that whole thing pretty much. It's a little hard to know, especially since George is asleep, exactly what I want here in this room. Though there's certain things like pom-pom makers, it's a great supply to have. I definitely use them, but I don't use them very much. So I definitely like having those in the craft closet. So I'm thinking that probably to err on the side of caution to get things out of here and to organize it into the craft closet. So I think kind of what I talked about previously with taking everything off and then just putting things back in that you know you want there when it comes to like the top of my shelf and what I put there. I think I'm going to do that into these bins and figure out what I want to do. I do have one bin that's full of all sorts of polymer clay materials. I think that is probably just fine to leave there because I don't have a better place to store all that together because it's kind of taking up like half a bin. So it's kind of a lot. But I might put in a couple other like jewelry / charm supplies in there. They're kind of related to one another. So I might do that for one of the bins. And then office supplies in another bin. And then maybe other like miscellaneous yarn goodies in the next. I'm not sure. Maybe that's where I'll put my bin of other supplies that I have. Alright, so in one bin we've got yarn specific things, leftover minis, scrappy stuff, and then I've got a couple other little supplies that I plan to use. Okay, next one. This is going to be my like other crafting items that are adjacent. So I've got all my polymer clay stuff. I've got a Sawzall. I've got a little bit of jewelry stuff. Mostly just my pliers and wire cutters are right there. And then I've got my hot glue guns because those are really handy to have. Alright, putting that one away. And this is, right now it's just like school supplies stuff. And I've got my weight in there for measuring my grams and such. I have a lot of space in here, which is nice. So I might put a couple notebooks. Maybe my design notebook will live in there. But anyway, it's better to leave extra space. Alfred. It's better to leave extra space in here so that I can put things in as needed. So that's what that is. Throwing that in here. Just like before, we have reorganized that top shelf of our bookshelf. So now I gotta put away all these other things that'll go in the craft closet. Okay, so the tiny hooligan has woken up from her nap. It's gonna be a little bit different to try to organize, especially when she finds some things and thinks they're toys. So in thinking about what I need to do next, I really need to find a way to organize this stuff so that when I put it in the craft closet, it's in something smaller and to kind of compartmentalize and keep things organized, at least by type, if not more. Oh my goodness. Wow. At least organized by type so that it's not all over the place. So I'm thinking I need to clean out the craft closet just a little bit to make some space in smaller containers so that I can move some of this stuff into there, because that is the next area that we are going to tackle. Okay, we are at my craft closet, but what I want to do is kind of take out some of the smaller bins. So I've got, you've already seen this one. This is all my scraps, my larger scraps, and I definitely want to clean through this because I'm sure some are things I would never end up actually using, but I've already got that. But the one bin in particular I'm thinking about is this one. And in it, it's kind of my like really, really old whips and a couple other random supplies bin. And so I think I can clean this out and make some room for my packaging materials. It's kind of my thoughts. So we're going to take a deep dive into this bin and see kind of everything that's in here. Georgia's helping me out. I've got all sorts of these scrunchies. Olive green, so they're kind of cute, but I never finished them. The problem is this yarn sheds like crazy. So I don't know how I feel about it. These are a probably get rid of. And then a bunch of other failed scrunchies, and I was trying to figure out how I wanted to make them. So I've got ones with like little knots on them, which I still think is a cute idea. But these are just super bulky. Part of me wants to just throw them out. Part of me wants to like cut the yarn off of all of these scrunchies and rescue the hair tie, and I don't know if that's like worth it, but also don't want to be like wasteful, so I don't know. These, I don't know if they still have these bins at Michael's, but they have like a top tray for smaller things organization and then a bigger like inside. I have a small container like this where I put all of my yarny type organization things, so my stitch markers, scissors, tape measure, end stoppers, crochet hook, all things like that. I have that in like a small one. It's been really helpful, so we're gonna use this big one. This small bin, it has a bunch of supplies. I've got a bunch of bells that I was using to make jingle bell trees. See, this is kind of a theme with my yarn stash in general, as I bought things to prepare to make things for markets, and then they weren't as popular as I thought they would be. So I've got cute little squeaker toy things and whatnot. So some of those supplies that I set out will definitely go in here. And then we are in the whip ultimate graveyard. I need to kind of organize these from like most likely to actually take care of to like least likely to actually take care of, because I have a really hard time keeping up on whips. Oh wow. You'll be hearing Georgia. Old scrubby. I made all the pieces for a Baby Yoda and have not fixed it together because it's a pain to see amigurumi. But I do remember my brother said he wanted it. I'm a nice sister, and so maybe I will tuck this away as like a gift to give him. I'm pretty sure I have all the pieces and everything. I've got a whole bunch of other like half-made scrubbies. Alfred! Got a whole bunch of half-made scrubbies. I got a lot of little bitty like earring parts, and I haven't really sold well. I'm just gonna throw this away. Oh, this is sad. I put this hat and this little ear warmer inside, and these are both for Georgia. I put them in the washer, not even the dryer, and just, I think the moisture and like the weight of the water just kind of warped the yarn, so I need to frog these and start 100% over. I do really like this yarn, so I think I will end up doing that eventually. I just forgot about it. I don't think this hat would fit her now. Nope. So maybe I'll just use the yarn for both to make a new hat. It's really hard to say goodbye to old whips. Oh, a little bag. Cute. You want to wear that hat? Well, the hat isn't going to fit you. I've got a few bags that I've been meaning to put the linings in. Linings and zippers to sell them. And it's like, they're not that far from being finished. Let's see. Oh, I've got a few pumpkins that have not been stuffed. They could be made into like cute baby hats, I suppose. Are you going to sit in Mama's lap? Yeah. Okay. Oh my goodness. Oh, this is one of my first things I ever designed. It's a daffodil. I designed it years ago and I didn't make a pattern for it. I definitely need to make some changes. Cute. I love daffodils. They're my favorite. Is Daddy here?
Hi, little dear. Are you and Mommy filming?
We are.
Yeah? Do you have some bells?
Oh, I made a G for Georgia, and I never made the other half, and I don't have any more of the yarn. So I was going to make a little, like, pillow for her. That was like G-shaped. This is like the front part of the pillow, G, and then there was gonna be another G, and then I was gonna do like there was gonna be a band to go around it to make it like a letter. Yeah, that's a lot of work. Look at all those ends. It was a pain in the butt. Good riddance. I have a finished stem for a flower. This time, I think this one I did pipe cleaner, so it's a little bit bendy. This one, I put a dowel in, so it's like really stiff. Maybe one day I'll finish that. Forgot about this. It's a skull. Amigurumi red heart yarn, where they have the patterns online. Hopefully they still have the patterns online. And I started the second purple school. Started that project. Didn't finish that one either. I was thinking that this bin would be a great size for all the things that are for like packing materials and stuff. And then this little bin to put all the other non-yarn supplies. Okay, we are finally done with that. I chopped up all of those scrunchies that would never come into reality so I could save all of the hair ties. And I vacuumed up, and now I'm all set to take a break from that. So now we have the top of my shelf, all 6 cubbies organized and methodical. Some of them are looking a little nicer than others, but it's organized, right? Got rid of everything I don't need to have here. And then up above, I've got my shelf, and I'm not going to touch that because there's really not too much up there, so I'm not decluttering any of that. I fixed the box right by my nightstand-esque thing. So that's got all the whips, like long-standing and whatnot. I put all of those whips that I wasn't ready to part with that I found in the craft closet. I shoved them all into the bottom of that box. The only other things that I have left to do that I'll do another day is I've got another bin here in my bedroom that's kind of just been the overflow for things. Okay, so this is kind of the overflow bin. This is kind of where I've put a bunch of things that I didn't want to take the time to figure out a spot in the craft closet while I was organizing the rest of the stuff. So I've got a bunch of yarn that I've pulled. I've got a couple prop things. I've got plenty of yarn left over from other projects. I've got all my printed patterns that I've acquired. I definitely need to go through this and get rid of some of those old patterns that I have digital copies of because I don't need the printed copies, and just kind of tidy things up. So then I know what I'm going to put in the craft closet. This whole thing hopefully will go to clear off space so that we have somewhere to put our laundry baskets. So that will be a project for another day. I'm really glad we got through another good chunk of this yarn reorganization project. All right, it's been just a little bit since I last filmed, but I am going to try to tackle the one box remaining in my room to get it kind of switched over, decluttered, and then switched over into the craft closet because I definitely have space in there for some of these things. Georgia is still sleeping. I don't think she'll be asleep for much longer for her nap, so I'm going to try to get through a lot, and then you might even see her helping me out with my decluttering. Okay, so I know for sure in this box I've got quite a few props that I'm hoping to take care of and organize a little bit. I might leave out like 1 or 2 things in my closet just so they're easy to get to for taking quick pictures in my room, because that's where the best lighting is, honestly, and it's not that great even. We just don't have good lighting in our apartment. And then I also have lots of extra random skeins, either things I pulled out I thought I was going to use, or skeins that I pulled out and partially used that I haven't put them back yet. I have a folder full of paper patterns that I need to go through. Everything that I have digitally that I can easily find, I'm going to recycle. And then I'm also going to go through, I have lots of pattern tests in there. So anything that's a pattern test that I don't think I'll ever make again, I'm going to try to declutter those patterns out as well. So let's see how much we can get through. I was really hoping to use up this yellow yarn. This is just like a worsted weight acrylic yarn. I was really hoping to use it up. It's not quite small enough to take out of my stash and put it in my scrap box. I need to make something with it, but really I have so much else going on that I really can't afford to get distracted and make like a banana or a lemon or something right now. So instead of just keeping it in my room for like a month and a half before I get around to actually using it, I'm gonna just put it away and be a good steward of my yarn. A baby saw. I knit this one too tightly so it did not fit my daughter. It's so cute though. Oh my goodness. So I'll probably hang on to it until I maybe one day with the rest of this yarn make another one. Oops. What's up, Corgi butt? All right, it's all empty. Let me show you. It's a huge mess. There was a lot in this bin, but I'd say about half of it is yarn. So that will just relocate really easily to the other room. I've got my pile of patterns right there. Got a couple finished object things that I'll probably sell, and then a couple proppy things. So honestly, it looks really bad, but the pile will dwindle very quickly. Georgia's still napping, but probably not for very long. All right, change of scenery. Georgia woke up. She is now playing with the squeaker. She's exploring my little, like, notions box for all the maker things. Anyway, I have my whole bin of yarn. It's actually really big, and I'm gonna start moving the yarn that was in my bedroom into their respective boxes for organization purposes. This box is like more than halfway full. I tried to organize it by yarn weight and type so that it's pretty easy to get it in the spot where it belongs. Let me know if you'd want a more in-depth look at how I organize my yarn stash, especially my old stash, which mostly stays in this closet since I don't pull it out just to kind of play around with it very much. Let's get some things moved over. I have a spreadsheet of all my yarn inventory, and I've tried to keep up with deleting things I know I've used up, but I have not been perfect at it, so there's some things on there. I'm sure that next time I do my inventory, I'll just start from scratch, reorganize, categorize everything. Hi, girly. Do you see yourself? Recategorize everything so that I can know exactly what I have. I have my numbers, but I don't have the specific skeins completely taken care of. In my inventory right now, I do have like the yarn name, the colorway name, whether it's like a partial skein or not, how many skeins if there's more than one skein of a colorway, all sorts of information, which is really helpful, especially if I need to know what colorway I already have of a skein so I can get a second skein to match or things like that. Definitely will need to update that, but now is not the time. Okay, so I'm going to go through this huge stack of patterns. I used to print out my patterns, especially when I was doing pattern tests, because I would make lots and lots of notes to give feedback to the designers. I definitely don't need to keep them. I only refer back to a few of them anyway. I think I have some of them in my downloads, like on Ravelry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look through here and pull out any that I think that I have, and I'll double check on my Ravelry library and make sure. And I'll just try to kind of organize and destash. It's hard for me to get rid of them even if I feel like I'm not going to use them again, but I'll definitely pull out the ones that I know I want to use again that are like go to like gift patterns or something, or market makes that I'm still making, and set those aside for sure. And then any that I can definitely find a copy of, like a digital copy, then I'll get rid of the paper copies and I'll recycle those. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. Okay, so we've had a little bit of a break. We went to the pool, enjoyed ourselves there, and I've now gone through all my paper patterns, and I immediately just took out everything that I had a digital copy of in my Ravelry library, because that's really easy for me to find. I know where it is, because I've gotten lots of PDFs like emailed to me, but it'll be really hard to track those down, so I will deal with those later. But the Ravelry ones I can definitely get out of my paper clutter, and so that is about maybe like a fifth of what I've got, so not a lot, honestly. And there's a lot of the designers that I'm actually still good friends with that I talk to online, and so I might reach out to them and be like, hey, could I have like the Ravelry copy to make it easier for me to organize myself? So we'll see. I might do that for some of these other ones. I'll show you my stack. I've still got quite a lot to go, so definitely gonna be a process to take care of, but I think that's all for right now because it's dinner time. You can see these are all the ones that I'm getting rid of that I can recycle right away because I have the digital patterns. These are all the ones where the digital patterns are not in Ravelry. I will look and see if I have any other final ones. Maybe I can download them to my computer. So it's maybe like a fifth of the pile. I wish there was more that I could get rid of, but I would rather make sure that I have patterns. All right, welcome back. I have finally finished my yarn Crafty area organization. It was kind of a big project. It's been a few days that I'm closing this out, but I just wanted to thank you so much for joining along in this little trip. Obviously, it's not the most aesthetic, but I don't think the most aesthetic things are the most productive. And I am really proud with the way that I've set things up now in my craft area so that it can help me to be creative and to get the things done that I want to get done, both in a crafting sense, but also everything else that I need to do while I'm here in my home, since this craft area shares some space with my bedroom. Since we moved into our apartment, the bedroom's kind of just, it's been the dumping ground because our apartment's pretty small. I'm glad that I have this area finally figured out. I don't have extra boxes lying around. I've got a whip area right here, and I've got my cabinets all organized, and all the yarn that doesn't need to be over here is now in the craft closet. So makes me feel happier. That makes me feel happier, and it's a little bit less chaotic in here, which is awesome. Definitely make sure to like this video and comment down below if there's anything in particular you want to see a more in-depth look at. I'll definitely make sure to link my bookshelf tour up in the cards as well as down below. If you want to see like a hand-dyed yarn tour from me, see what hand-dyed yarns I have in my stash, which is all over here, then definitely let me know. I think further down the line, I'm going to go back and reorganize the yarn I have in my craft closet, since you saw those bins are less organized than they used to be, and it would be good to go through and re-inventory all the yarn I have in my stash so I can make better plans for how I want to attack it and use it up. If those are things that you want to see, definitely let me know. Thank you so much for being here again, and I hope to see you again next week for another video. Happy making! Bye!